implication is if to win a precedence debate, if Wallace discovered the whole thing instead of Darwin, I don't see how that helps them at all.
Okay.
And the second question, which has nothing to do with that, is how much, it strikes me that Darwin had some, I'll call them obsessive compulsive characteristics, and that those obsessive compulsive characteristics may have been a central reason why he was able to do this whole thing, whereas, as you said in your talk, had, I think, an answer to the question, if Darwin hadn't been there, it would have come out piecemeal. Is there anything in what you've been looking at that would indicate that those personality characteristics?
Yeah, so let me answer the second question first. What you're talking about is an obsessive compulsive characteristic is the mark of a good scientist. To be able to stick with something, do the experiments, deal with the details, and he certainly was good at that. He was also really good at coercing people into helping him. You know, he would write them detailed letters explaining, since you're the world's expert on this and I really value your opinion, would you mind going out and collecting this and this and sending it to me? And as his reputation built up, you know, they just said, yes. You know, and sent him all the. So, you know, he had certain social skills, even though he didn't mingle. He stayed at his home for the most part. He had lots of communication, lots of ability to get people to help him. That's a skill. He experimented. He thought critically. I don't know if that's necessarily obsessive or compulsive. I think it's a good thing. But yeah, he did it better than anybody else. And the first question is, you need to understand that it's very common for people to think that if you discredit the man, then you discredit the idea. I mean, if you can show that Marx cheated on his wife, communism must be bad. If you can show that Darwin married his first cousin, therefore evolution can't have happened. You're chuckling, but you know that this is very common, right? If you can show that Bush is an idiot, then the war. No, that's a bad example. But that's generally how it goes. So if you discredit Darwin, then the creationists think that we're Darwin worshippers, right? It's like if I discredit Jesus and show that he really wasn't resurrected and wasn't the Son of God, then I can actually do some serious damage to Christianity. They tend to think the same about Darwin and evolution, that we are so much in Darwin's debt that if they can just show that he was not a nice person, therefore the ideas must have been wrong as well. That's how that works. And, you know, and unfortunately, it's a fairly successful strategy here. A lot of people buy into it.
This will be the last question, I'm afraid.
You first,
okay.
And then two quick.
Okay. I noticed a couple of minutes ago you took a whack at evolutionary psychology.
I sure did. You want to do another one?
No, I was wondering if you think, you know, people like Steven Pinker and David Buss, and a lot of the stuff I'm reading on Edge and seeing from the Science Network, you know, those terrific talks they have, an awful lot of impressive people that are in that field, merging it with the neurology.
Depends on what you mean by impressive, I guess.
Well, so like, why is it you've got it in for this? Because they seem to be pretty good scientists to me.
Well, I don't think they are. Okay, and this is an ongoing debate. It's not just me, right? Okay. There's a great many of us that challenge their ideas and say, okay, look, if what you're saying is true, then wouldn't this and this follow? And they sort of skate around the issue and develop another. These are called just so stories, after Rudyard Kipling. Okay, why did the elephant, why does he have a long trunk? It's because the alligator pulled on it. Okay. And many of the evolutionary psychology stories fall into that mode. Okay, why do women go through menopause? Well, it's so they can look after their grandchildren. Yeah, but they actually didn't live that long, back when they came. Are you telling me that there was a time when, for example, women didn't go through menopause, and then all of a sudden, and they continued to have children when they were 50 or 70? I don't know that any of those arguments really stand up to close scrutiny. And none of the people who propose them are able to convince those of us who are skeptics that they've thought them through. So we're very skeptical of them.
But where can I go to get more on your point of view as opposed to what I'm
Well,
reading on Edge and whatnot?
Well, if you read the Edge, if you read some of the exchanges, you read carefully.
Yeah.
You'll see the people later on saying, "Come on, Steve. You know, human evolution has not come to a stop. You know, it's just not true that you know that Cro-Magnon man did this and that." If you read carefully, you'll see that. But it's very hard to publish negative things in science these days. It's very hard to publish a paper saying Steven Pinker's an idiot. And so, you know, so it's happening on the blogs. That's one of the reasons why I think blogs are going to be so important. Is there's much more freewheeling discussion back and forth.
What's your blog called?
It's not necessarily. You can go to Pharyngula or Sandwalk is mine. There's all kinds of them. So that's often where these discussions are taking place, because they can't really take place in the scientific literature. You really can't publish a paper just you know saying so and so is wrong. It's just part of this is where the culture is evolved. Okay, the very last question.
We see all through history the rise and fall of accepting or rejecting evolution. It seems to me that, say in the States today, they argue that it's not scientific, but it seems to me that the argument isn't based on science, it's based on politics and the strength of religious organizations. For instance, in ancient Greece, say for instance Aristotle, they sort of figured it out that it was evolution at work. But then with the rise of Christianity, that was kind of forgotten. But then with the advance of science in Western Europe, there was more tolerance and more acceptability of science, and the strength of the church weakened. And say, well, in the Soviet Union, they just rejected the church, and they accepted atheism. But now you see in the States, with being one of the predominant cultures with theology, they sort of arguing it all over again. But they use saying that science is faulty, but it's not that at all. It's all political, it seems to me.
Well, it's religious. It's the war is between. I'm with Richard Dawkins on this. The war is between superstition and rationalism. And the clearest manifestation of superstition is the belief in the deluded belief in supernatural beings. And rationalism is the idea that you need to be skeptical and base your conclusions on evidence. That's what the fight is really about. The evolution creation part of it is just a subset of that particular battle. If people become more rational about their beliefs in things that aren't true, then the opposition to evolution will evaporate. So I'm one of those people who think that the real fight is what Dawkins says. It's between religion and science, or superstition and rationalism. And to get bogged down in fights about whether you should teach intelligent design in the classroom is really, I think, missing the point.
But I'm thinking, say for instance, the rise of, there's always questionable about evolution in the States, but with the rise of Reagan and the Bushes, they promoted religion, and
Yes.
and they allowed it to be challenged in the school system, and that's all political.
They did. The United States is really the only modern Western industrialized nation that has a serious issue with the conflict between science and religion. And they're doomed. I mean, it's just, it's not gonna hold up. Unfortunately, may not be our lifetime, but rationalism will win.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.